participant, I think two perhaps, have joined. Shamiranjan Chau, could you please mute yourself? Because a sound is coming from, yeah. Okay. Yes, I think we should start because it's already time and then we have to finish the course. And dear friends, good morning. And today we will discuss the last block, that is project work, block 6. And before we start, let me recapitulate what we have done in the previous classes blocks. Sorry, there was some outside sound, so I have to mute. So we have to recapitulate what we have done in the last classes, and then I will also give a very general introduction to what this block constitutes, and then we move ahead. Actually, this block is about project work. So, as an anthropologist, you are required to carry out empirical research, which is otherwise known as fieldwork, ethnographic fieldwork, because what we learn in anthropology in the theory paper, that we need to see in the empirical evidence-based data whether that is what is exactly happening with human and his societies. So fieldwork or staying with the community, going with a problem, and to find out answer to those questions or research problems is an integral part of anthropology. And that is what we have discussed in all 5 blocks. In block 1, what we did is we discussed about what is anthropology and what are the different branches of anthropology. We discussed about 4 major branches of anthropology, and especially in the context of research design. And in the first block, we discussed about social cultural anthropology that deals with human and his society from human and his society from a cultural point of view, taking human as a social being and to try to understand human how societies and social institutions have evolved over the year. And in one that is in the vertical, and in the horizontal we have also tried to understand human variation or differences that exist in humans and human societies. So, cultural anthropology, and in all different branches of anthropology, that becomes the framework. One horizontal line, one vertical line. Vertical line talks about how man and his society has evolved over the time, and the horizontal line is the differences that exist across human societies, both keeping man as a biological product, as a biological being, and man as a social product, as a social or cultural being. And then we also discussed about the biological evolution and different branches of anthropology. And third branch was prehistoric archaeology or archaeological anthropology, where anthropologists look at how human societies in the prehistoric past, based on cultural and other material on artifacts like stone tools, fossil remains, bones, and other evidences, try to reconstruct the human society existing in prehistoric period. Another is through cave art and other things. And the fourth was linguistic anthropology. How language as a as a mode of communication is also intimately linked and help us to understand human past and human evolution, as well as the diversity that exists in terms of language, both spoken, symbols, as well as written. Because human societies and humans are the only animal who have elaborate language as a mode of communication, and language both as written and oral. So, this is what we discussed in the block one to understand different aspects of anthropology. And then, what are the sub branches of anthropology? Then, we discussed in block two about the fieldwork tradition in anthropology, how anthropology as a colonial discipline grew from understanding the other to the study of the self. And we also, in block two, discussed about the techniques of gathering empirical data on human societies and culture through observation, interview, schedule, questionnaire, focus group discussion, and so many other tools and techniques that is used, and especially in the context of fieldwork tradition in anthropology, and how it was started with Malinowski, and then later on many famous anthropologists contributed, and the idea of anthropology as uh, uh, that relied on secondary sources from travelogues, from priest documents, from government documents, to carrying out empirical first-hand information on a specific group. And then we also discussed about different tools and techniques, and especially in other blocks. For example, in block 4, we discussed paying weightage to direct and indirect observation, participant observation, quasi participant observation, non participant observation. Observation becomes one of the key qualitative research technique that anthropologists use for a collection of data. And in block 5, you learned about the quantitative method that Professor Satpathy took the class. I did not take that class. So Dr. Satpathy on my behalf took the class on quantitative aspect. And in block 6, that is this paper on project work, is the target of today's class. This is what we are going to do. So, project work is an introduction to research. So, why it is required, what it is exactly contains, and why should anthropologist or you, as student of anthropology, should do it. This is what we are going to discuss today. So, dear friends, project work is an essential component of anthropology course at master's level, whether it is MA or MSc. Because, as I said, what we have learned in theory in all other papers, or you will be reading after this, really culminates into understanding it better way through your own participation in understanding through a research problem that you design, and then try to gather data through empirical evidence or ethnographic account to test what you have learned in theory is really working. For example, if in sociocultural anthropology one is to study the kinship system as in order to understand the social structure of a community, then you go to study a given community, for example, the Munda tribes, and to try to understand, try to frame a question or research problem to understand how kinship structure makes Munda to take decisions with regard to their political participation in elections or in decision making with respect to conflict resolution in their community. Whether kinship play an important role. So in theory, you understand what is kinship, how kinship structures are different in different society, whether classificatory or other kinds of kinship structures, and what kind of kinship structure African societies have, European societies have, or Indian societies have, how many different kinds of kinship structures are there. But to test that, how critical kinship structure is in order to understand social structure of a given community, then you go and study a particular community and test, collect data and test. Yes, if kinship plays important role, that becomes critical in understanding those complex social phenomena in that community. So that becomes very, very important. So project work is entirely dependent on you. It is you who hold the responsibility right from the inception to the writing of the report. That means, as we discussed in the research design, you have to start a research before writing a report or doing a project. That means to make a research plan. In that plan, the first step is to make a research problem or to create a or to problematize a social phenomena or an issue that you can just simply call it framing a question, research question. The next logical step would be, I think this is what we have discussed earlier. The logical step would be to do certain review of literature on that. Then you have to decide area and people that you are going to study, which geographical area, which community or population that you would like to study. Then next step would be you would have to design a research methodology that would include choice of population, also issues relating to sampling of research participants, doing the sampling, then deciding different research tools and technique that fit into the specific research objectives that you have set for yourself in the introduction chapter. Then, after tools and techniques are decided, you have to prepare that. You have to prepare certain research schedule or questionnaire guide. Then, next step would be you have to go to the field to collect data, and once you have collected the data, next step would be to analyze the data. So, data can be of two different types. One is quantitative, the second is qualitative. So both quantitative and qualitative data that is collected from the field needs to be analyzed. And if it is quantitative data, before you have analyzed, you need to feed it to nowadays SPSS are and other softwares are available to enter those data, or you can do it with Excel sheet if it is quantitative. Then once you have done the data entry, then you need to filter it, and then data you have to analyze that data, create tables out of that data, and then once it is made, you have to interpret. The next step would be to interpret the data. That would be under the section of result or findings. Once you have the finding, the next logical step would be to discuss the data in the context of what is happening elsewhere, or what is the status of the same data among the other communities. For example, if you are working on demography, you have found fertility and mortality of a particular Munda tribe, then you have to contextualize the data, give a meaning to the data by collecting more data on demography from other communities done in that particular state or area. So that is done in the chapter called discussion. So this is very very essential that once you have written the discussion chapter, to the last chapter would be to write conclusion or summary and conclusion. And another important aspect would be to understand the referencing, because in research two things are very very important. One, to give credit to the source that you have taken the data, means giving citation in the dissertation or in the thesis or the report that you prepare. You have to cite the sources from which you have taken the idea, you have borrowed the idea, or you have referred for all different kinds of data. And then next would be to provide detailed description of the citation. For example, in your introduction chapter or your chapter on review of literature, if you have cited a source, suppose your teacher has written a book, his name is Manoranjan Das, and Manoranjan Das has written a book on kinship structure among the Mundas of, suppose, Jharkhand. And now you want to study the Mundas of demographic structure of the Mundas of Odisha, and you have to compare the status of fertility, mortality, migration among the Mundas of Odisha, how they fare in comparison to the Mundas of Jharkhand. So you have to give citations. Suppose Manoranjan Das has mentioned that the sex ratio among the Mundas are found to be 958 as per 2019 ethnographic data that he has collected. Fieldwork, based on fieldwork he has done in Ranchi of Jharkhand. And in your study you have done in 2024 among the Mundas of Keonjhar. I'm just giving example. So in Keonjhar, and your sex ratio is found to be, suppose, 995. So in your review of literature, you can write about the sex ratio among the Mundas of Ranchi in Jharkhand is 950 according to Das 2018. And that he has done through his master's dissertation submitted to IGNO, Ranchi branch. And now, as a student of IGNO Bhubaneswar Center, you are studying the Mundas of Keonjhar and your finding says 995, the sex ratio. So, in your review of literature, you are giving the data of Mundas of Ranchi 958 sex ratio, and within bracket you are writing the source Das 2018. It means Das has found out the sex ratio to be 958, and then in the reference section that would come in the end of your dissertation, you have to write who is Das, what is his study, and what is the source. How can somebody else could find Mr. Das reference? So when you write in your review of literature within bracket Das 2018, that is called citation. When you, after your conclusion in the section called references, if you give a detail like Das, Manoranjan 2018, the title of his study is Demographic Structure Among the Mundas of Ranchi, Jharkhand, unpublished PG dissertation submitted to ignorancy branch. So this is called references. But that's 2018 in the review of literature or introduction section is called citation. So one is citation where only the surname of the author with year is written and the detail, the name, year, title of the publication, source, whether journal, book, unpublished dissertation, whatever is called references or reference section. So this is what also we are going to discuss under this in the project work. And then what else? After the reference is finished, you can also give a section called annexure. And in annexure, you provide detail of your schedule, copy of your uh, schedule that you have used for data collection, and you can give some photographs. So this is what is broadly the structure. Now we should go and discuss in detail all this each step that I have said, starting from making a research problem or deciding a topic to giving annexure, references and annexure and photographs. So, dear friends, project work should be undertaken on an anthropologically relevant topic. When because this is a very crucial, this is very important class for all of you, because you all need to write a project work or project paper. So that is called ordinarily that is called writing a main dissertation, and that is and how then before you do that, how do you choose a topic? What is an ideal topic in anthropological research, and how anthropological topic is different from other disciplines? So in if you look at your reading material that is being provided to you, they have given some of the topics. Let me read out some of the topics and discuss how you can choose your topic. And if you have, and today, since it is a last class and it is on project work, I will keep around half an hour to discuss with all of you if you have a specific research topic and you would like to get feedback from me. So I will try for that. So, type of research project work in anthropology. Suppose in your book it is given migration pattern among laborers, for example, rickshaw pullers. So, migration has emerged as one of the important area where anthropologists are interested in. They are interested in the push and pull factor of migration. What are the factors that push people to move from their place of origin or place of stay to a new place? If it is push, that means some factor is pushing them. So there is a strain, there is a compulsion why people should move. Then there is a pull. Pull means another place that is called place of destination may also pull people to a new place because that provides better opportunity, maybe for education, for employment, for safety living, or whatever factor. So, as it has been given in your book, they have given the example of rickshaw puller. So you can take rickshaw puller, you can take, for example, brick factory migrants. You can also make knowledge migrant, like people with a lot of knowledge, maybe those who are technically sound. They go, for example, IT sector professionals migrate from Odisha to Bangalore or to Hyderabad to Pune or to America, or Silicon Valley, or somewhere else. So they are called knowledge migrant. They are a different kind of migrant. But if you have migrants who are, ଆମେ ଯୋଉଟା ଓଡ଼ିଶାରେ କହୁଛେ ଦାଦନ ଖଟିବାକୁ ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି, but those who go as laborers, they are unskilled migrant. So you have people with skill, people with unskilled, people are semi-skilled. So different kinds of people migrate with the different kinds of motivation. So that becomes interesting area for anthropology, and social anthropologists can look at the social, cultural, economic, political, and psychological factors that drive people to change their place of stay and place of work from one place to the other. And at the same time, biological anthropology or physical anthropologists may be interested in how migration or change of place can bring biological changes, physical changes, a gene change in gene pool. If people migrate to a new place, get married to people at the place of destination. So migration, what I'm saying is migration, as has been mentioned in your book, can be one good example of research topic. Second is the nutritional status of adolescent children. Dear friends, nutritional status, nutrition again is a sub branch of physical anthropology, which is also emerging area of research where one can also look at what is the nutritional status of a particular community, whether it's a tribe or caste or urban setup group, religious group, whatever. In that, people would be, or anthropologists are interested in what kind of food people take, what are indigenous varieties of food items that people take, and how that food habits or food culture is changing over time. What are the factors responsible for that change? And there are methods normally adopted by physical anthropologists to evaluate the intake of food through different methods. One of the methods is 24-hour recall method. That means you ask somebody, if you are working on the Munda community, for example, then you go to a Munda village, ask the Mundas what do they take in their breakfast, lunch, evening snacks, and dinner. How much of what are the different food items they consume. And based on that food item, you calculate what is the amount of rice, of dal, vegetables, oil, salt, whatever ingredient they put in preparation of the food, you calculate both the quantitative aspect of it and the qualitative aspect of it. Quantitative is done by asking them question about food items they consume. Qualitative is done by converting the quantity into quality by following ICMR or NIN, National Institute of Nutrition's conversion rate. Suppose the Munda tribe in their lunch take rice and dalma. How much rice? Suppose five members are there and they consume 1 kilo rice. So that means per head it will be 200 gram rice. 200 gram of rice contains, suppose, 150 kilocalorie. So you write that. In dalma, suppose they put 50 grams of dal, 100 grams of potato, 100 grams of bean, 100 grams of brinjal, and some other vegetables. You write down all the ingredient they use, how much of oil, how much of salt, and if it is that, then you calculate. ICMR has a list, area-wise, region-wise list of food items and their conversion into kilocalorie. And you calculate the calorie. How much calorie one person has consumed during the lunch. And if the average calorie after calculation is found to be within the range that a normal human being takes, then what is the growth outcome based on anthropometric measurements? Whether that food is sufficient or not. If it is deficient, then we can say that the growth pattern of mundas is lagging behind because their nutritional intake is below average. That is one way of looking at nutrition status. Another way of looking at the nutrition status and food culture is done by social anthropologists who look at how much of the food item is derived from the local source, how much is from outside, what is indigenous variety of food, and what is not indigenous outside procured, and how those changes in food items has taken place, what are the cultural factors. So roughly this is about nutritional status. Then distribution of blood group, what I'm doing is I'm discussing some of the chapters that you can take up for your project work based on what has been subscribed in your described in your book. And apart from book, I will also give you some other topics. Then distribution of blood group in a particular population. So this is normally done by physical anthropologists who try to understand human variation with respect to blood group. As you know, humans have ABO blood group, where there are four different kinds of blood groups are there. That is called ABO blood group system. So there are other blood group systems also, like MN system, Duffy system, Kale system, RH system. So there are a number of systems, but ABO is very popularly known system. You ask anybody, they would say my blood group is B positive, or A, or AB, or O negative, or O positive, something like that. So physical anthropologists are interested in understanding the blood group distribution in a particular population. Which blood group is more? Because we have known from secondary source literature that blood group distribution is also linked with disease profile. Suppose B positive is linked to disease XYZ. Suppose people with B negative may be more prone to cancer, or to diabetes, or to cardiovascular disease, or to fever, or allergy. So that kind of things may help anthropologists to correlate the distribution of blood group system in a given community with prevalence of particular disease or disorder. Then another topic could be observation at a bus stand, public place, religious place, marriage, function, fair, festival, all these things. As we discussed in research tools and techniques section, I think in block 2, observation is a tool, qualitative research tool used by anthropologists to collect data. So, by using observation, one can also collect data on many things. For example, let me give you another example. Suppose if you want to, you have gone to a tribal village in a tribal area, and you want to see how people interact in a public place. So, the best place would be either to attend a function, or to go to a festival, or you can, if there is no festival during your visit, the best thing is you go to a tribal hut को जिबे but tribal market. There are weekly market, there are bi-weekly markets. When you go to the market, you would see that in tribal areas they have come with their local produce, the vegetables and different items. So there are two different kinds of people you would see. You'd see people who are local, you'd see people who are outsiders. So you would see a pattern that outsiders hold different kind of businesses. Their shops are of different varieties. Suppose for clothes, for ration, grocery shops, all different kinds of things are mainly head by outsiders. Local people would be with shops that deals with, and they don't have shops, they sit in the open with vegetables, with handia and other things. So by visiting an hut or weekly market, you can very well understand the groups. How do they interact with each other? Where do they sit? How do they sit? Who holds the market, whether male or female? If it is female, whether young female or old female. and what are the indigenous varieties of vegetables that is available, and what do they sell in the market, and what do they sell in open, and what do they sell by hiding, and what is the timing of the heart will never be in the evening because they have problem with lights. Maybe in some areas it in the morning, but most of the time it is just after lunch. So hearts will only be there for 3 4 hours, and there will be a special place where people would have a lot of games. Suppose cockfight game or different tribal games people would be playing, and there will be specific designated places where people will consume alcohol, whether it is handia, mauli, all different kinds of beverages that they prepare. And people will also spend a lot of amusement in the heart, and the kind of hierarchical role, the relationship between groups, all these things can be discovered through observation method if you go and visit a weekly market. And then family tree, we discussed earlier, family tree or pedigree analysis is one of the methods used by cultural anthropologists as well as biological anthropologists. Hygiene in a slum area is a good topic. So, how people living in slum areas who normally are migrant workers, migrant or recent migrants, or people living in difficult conditions. So, how do they maintain hygiene, especially in the onset of diseases? For example, like COVID. So, how do they manage that? What are the behaviors with regard to hand washing, with regard to cleaning their hands after food, before food, after toilet, and so many other conditions? Then harassment at workplace. In an urban setup, in a corporate world, so anthropologists, there are many anthropologists who also work workplaces in corporate sector. How individuals deal with each other. What is the relation, hierarchical relationship in a company? So these are also some areas. Then experience of working women. So how working women, young women, what is their experience of living in a small city, big city, new place, traveling, working in a male-dominated situation? What is their experience, and what is their experience of living in a place, whether it is in a PG hostel, or it is in working men's women's hostel, or in a rented house. So, what are the difficult challenges working women face? Then, secular trend among population. Secular trend is something like anthropologists are interested. You must have studied in human growth and development or physical anthropology. Secular trend is something, for example, if in a long term, if you want to compare different parameters, demographic or growth parameters, for example, age at monarchy or height, average height of a population. If we say that the average height of male Munda in last 100 years has increased by 2 centimeter. So how do we know? We know based by applying a technique called secular trend. If there are data available on average height of Munda of Keonjhar carried out in 1910, then 1940, 1970, 2000, 2020. Suppose there are data available at different point of time, then we compare data from those different time periods and say that it is an increasing or decreasing trend. So all this data collected at intervals, long intervals, is called secular trend. It can be positive, it can be negative. Let me give one example to make it more understandable. Suppose age at menarche or age at which girls attain their puberty. We know that girls attend their puberty at the age from 10 to 14 or 15, and gradually this age at menarche is reducing from 13, 14 to 11, 12, or even 10. If you go to tribal areas, it will be a little more, like 13, 14. The average is at menarche, they get their menstrual cycle started. But if you come to the urban area, it is reducing maybe 11, 10. So why it is happening? So this can be one question. If it is reducing over the year, in last 100 years, there are 3, 4 studies at time intervals. So if it is reducing, then it is, say, negative secular trend. It is reducing because there is a biological reason. If the fat deposition is increased, then age at onset of menarche will be lower, or it will start at early age. And fat deposition is increasing because of government intervention, because of better food intake. So these are the factors anthropologists are interested in under the study of secular trend. Then blood pressure among adults. So diastolic systolic blood pressure is increasing in all societies. So this is one area that anthropologists are interested in. Then frequency of diabetes, hypertension, good topic. Impact of pollution on children, how children respond to the dust pollution in a city, air pollution in a city like Delhi, or water pollution, or different kinds of pollution that bring a lot of allergy among the children. So one can also study this. Water contamination related health problem. So water contamination is a major issue in almost all areas, specifically in tribal areas where people do not have good source of drinking water. They get it from the spring or the source where water is deposited. It's not running water like river or spring. So that brings a lot of issues, especially for drinking water, for cooking, for bathing. So a lot of skin diseases may also happen because of that. So water becomes a critical factor to study. So anthropologists are also interested in understanding this. And when you choose a topic, you give a holistic approach to problematize and to find out research questions relating to that particular topic. Then house type, family type, indigenous knowledge system like medical, traditional healers, local classification of flora and fauna. So indigenous knowledge system is another area that anthropologists are frequently interested in, because many tribal communities or rural communities may have traditional knowledge system with regard to so many different aspects of life, whether it is traditional ethnomedicine, whether it is agriculture, food conservation system, or preparation of beverages. So in everything, the tribal or rural communities have their traditional knowledge system. So one can also develop a research problem based on the traditional knowledge system. And then social problem like smoking, drinking, domestic violence, unemployment. It's not given here. Maybe aging, not getting government different socioeconomic benefits of different programs. Then social problems like smoking, drinking, yeah, all these things. Then impact of social network sites like Facebook, Orkut on youth. So there is a recent study from my own experience. I'm saying how much time young people, adolescent girls spend on mobile phone in tribal areas is drastically increasing, and it may have both positive and negative implication on their life, on their studies, on their quality of life. So this can be another good topic for project work. Then you can have interpretation of a film, either of documentary or commercial film. So cinema is another area where people can devote their attention. So these are broadly given some topics. I can give you some more depending on what is the specialization that you are interested in. For example, somebody has specialized in cultural social anthropology, then one can be interested in economic productivity. So how what are the major source of production for a community? How there is a mobility of people from one occupation to the other. If somebody is interested in agriculture, so what kind of agriculture, what kind of cultivation people do, what is indigenous variety, what is not, how those indigenous varieties is linked to their livelihood. Somebody else may be interested in how much of their forest dependency is reducing or increasing, and what are the factors responsible for dependency on forest. So that can be another area. One can be interested in the political organization. So, how people take decisions, whether there is a conflict between their customary law or traditional decision making processes like PIDA system, kinship based system, clan based system, to Panchayat Raj system, whether there is a conflict between different this traditional and modern form of decision making or political participation. If one is interested in the psychological anthropology, one would say what factor is responsible for the behavioral change of people with respect to elderly or to health consumerism or to not practicing the traditional rituals, music, dance. So what are the cultural and psychological factors? And similarly, physical anthropologists interested in population genetics can do something. Nutritional anthropology can also, this is what I've discussed. Then medical anthropologists can also look at how people take decisions with respect to health seeking behavior of young children, of pregnant women, of elderly people. So these are the common topics one can take. Now we move on to the next section, that is selection of the project work mentor. Another important aspect that you may need to discuss with your coordinators of IGNO, but generally I would say that all research project work requires a guide, a supervisor who is called mentor. He would mentor you, means he would supervise you, guide you, give you feedbacks, tell you what to do, what not to do, how to frame a good research, who will do the hand holding is called your research mentor. So mentor is a must. And in the structure of IGNO, you will always be guided by a mentor, duly recognized by learners can choose a mentor who is well versed in anthropology, that is either from physical, social, archaeology, or any other sub branch of anthropology, depending on the topic that you have chosen. But only thing is that person who would become a mentor should be a senior one, should have some experience of guiding you or mentoring you. A brief biodata of the mentor along with the project proposal or synopsis should be sent to you should send it to the program coordinator of your center with the recommendation of the supervisor, somebody agreeing to do the mentoring. Then the report writing. Report writing is an art which is learned by practice and experience. As you move on, doing some research, getting some ideas, getting data, then you would slowly learn how to write a report, how to how to write that report, and you need to submit the report in your January session or July session. That you need to discuss with your uh, coordinator at the center, IGNO center. And the January session is to submit at the 31st of May, and those who have joined in July session, they have to start, submit it by 30th of November. And now coming to project report, because in earlier classes we discussed about study design and doing the field work. After you have done the field work, you have come with your data, then how to structure the project report, how to write the report. What are the important steps? In the beginning, I told in general, now we'll discuss in specifics. So, report is an outcome of the project. So, while presenting it, you need to pay a lot of attention to take in a systematically arrange the contents of the project work, and the structure of the project should be like this. First, the title of the project work means you have to write, like in any book, a title is written on the first page, the cover page. Similarly, in research project also, you have to write the title of the project. Then, then would be table of contents. You have to write the contents. What your chapter one, chapter two, chapter three, chapter four, chapter five contains, and then referencing, then acknowledge. Sorry, then the annexes. Then after that, you have to give the list of tables and photographs. Then acknowledgements. Acknowledgement means you have to acknowledge the people, the institutions that have helped you to carry out the research fieldwork and also analyze it and write it. Normally, in acknowledgement, you have to acknowledge your mentor or supervisor or guide. You need to acknowledge the coordinator of your center. You need to acknowledge all the teachers who have taught you. And you may also acknowledge your family member, your friends for that. So acknowledgement is something. And then finally, last but not the least, you must also acknowledge the community members or the research participants who have helped you to collect data from whatever source, whatever place. Then come to the real topic. The first is introduction, second literature review, third study area and people, fourth materials and method, fifth data analysis and result, sixth findings and concluding remarks, and then references. Let me discuss one by one with you. What is introduction? How it should be written? What it should contain? It depends on your topic that you have chosen. Dear friends, just give me 1 or 2 minutes break. I'll just drink a glass of water and come back. Just 2 minutes. You may also take 2 minutes break. Hello, dear friends. I'm back. So what we were discussing is about in your project report, how you should write and what are the content of the project report. So we discussed that your report should have these many chapters. The initial 4 5 pages would be cover page. Then you'd have content, table of content, table of list of tables and photographs and figures. Then you have acknowledgement. But then the real chapter comes. Chapter 1 is introduction. Chapter 2 is a review of literature. Chapter 3 is study of area and people. Chapter 4 is materials and method. Chapter 5 is data analysis and result. Some people do chapter 6 as discussion. Some say result and discussion. Then your findings and concluding remarks, means conclusion. Then references. Then additionally, I said you can put annexure and photographs. That is not a chapter, but at the end. So now let us discuss specifically what introduction chapter should contain, what it means, what, and what you should keep there. Introduction means you need to introduce the research problem, what you want to do to your reader who would read your dissertation. For example, if you are taking nutritional status as a topic, so you have to explain to the reader why nutrition is important, what happens if people do not take nutritional food, whether they would have diseases or they would have life threatening problems, or what happens, and how food and nutrition is changing over the time, and what are the implications. Then you should also discuss what are the factors that influence food. For example, culture influence food, so culture becomes a factor. For example, if you belong to a particular religion, then you avoid a certain kind of food. For example, Jains will avoid taking onion, garlic, and non-veg food. Muslims will prefer that kind of food. For example, age can also influence food, and life condition can also influence food. For small children, they take certain food, they avoid certain food. You don't give. Suppose lot of chilies you don't give to young children. You don't give pregnant women to eat certain kind of food which are hot in nature. Old people don't take lot of meat and other things because they cannot digest. So culturally, as well as based on age, certain foods are preferred, certain foods are avoided. And in certain cultures, certain foods are preferred, certain things are taboos. So in your introduction, you can write that how food can also influence nutrition. Then come to review of literature. Review of literature is something. Sorry. In the introduction, after that, you have to write your aim and objectives of the study. Objectives should be limited to three, not more. Some people keep five, six, or 10 objectives. Please do not keep that. Just limit your objectives to two or three because that can be doable in a very limited amount of time. Because you will get only 2 to 4 months time to write your dissertation. You will do the work before that. So keep your objectives to two to three. Then second chapter is a review of literature. Review of literature means with respect to the topic, with respect to the research problem that you have chosen or decided, you have to review what others have done with respect to that particular research problem. And review of literature has two objectives. One, to understand what has been done with respect to your research topic. Second, is what has not been done, means what has been neglected by others with respect to the research topic. So you have to review. Review can be done in different ways. One is theme based review, means you decide number of themes relating to your topic. Suppose in nutrition, culture becomes one factor of, so Acculturation process can be another factor through which food changes. Climatic condition can also change with food. Religion can also. So these are the theme based on which you can write the review. Then review is done based on spatial, SPATIAL. Special means region wise. When you review what is found. Spatially means what is local. You can give a local view, local food. Then regional food. Then national food. Then international food. And in review of literature can be done through systematic review. Systematic review has a format. You collect all different kinds of articles, books, and other platforms where things have been published through Google search. Then you see there are softwares that would help you to do systematic review. You put all these words and they will find out what are the most commonly used titles. Then there are thematic review, there are scoping review. So there are different kinds of review, which is difficult to discuss in a theory class. But if you are interested, you can Google it and find out different kinds of reviews done. So you can adapt one or two methods of review. And please, review means you collect all different kinds of information relating to your topic, relating to your research problem, and review them, both the positive and negative aspects. Both what has been the strength of other works and what are the limitations and weaknesses of other works. So that becomes review of literature, and review of literature is a very critical chapter for dissertation. Examiners should look for that. Another important aspect in review of literature is you have to give citations. All the articles, books, reports that you refer, you give the source. As I said earlier, you can within bracket you have to give the citation of the source you have followed. You can write Singh 2017 means a study carried out by Singh Rajendra Singh on this topic, nutrition topic, or Mahapatra 2021, or Das 2011, or Singh 1998. So these are called citations. In literature review, you have to give the citation. So in brief, I have to say follow one method of review of literature, collect all different kinds of from sources, give respect to the source means write the citation of the source. And in a review, there are two objectives. One, what all work, different kinds of work have been done on that topic. Second, what has been the neglected areas of attention paid by others. That becomes your chapter 2. Chapter 3 is study area and people. That means in chapter 3 you have to give a brief description of the area that you have selected and the people you have studied. For example, if you have gone to Keonjhar, you can write about the district Keonjhar, its flora, fauna, population change, history, its politics, then about the people that live in that area. If you have done a particular block, you have to give the description of the block. Then comes people. If in the people, I'm just giving the example of Munda for your understanding only. So you can write any community. So people means describing the people. And under people, you under area, you always go for district gazetteer. That becomes a good source to write about the district or block. Or you can go to online source or to library to find out more about the area, whether it is a village or a panchayat or a block or a district or a state. That area needs to be defined in anthropological research, and you have to give a description of the area. And when it comes to people, it means the community or the society or the tribe or the caste group, whatever. You have to explain them. You write the history of the population or the caste. If it is Mundas, then you have to write what Munda means to them. From where did they come? What is their oral history? What is legend about them? Then you write about their social structure, their kinship system, their family. Then write about the political organization. Write their economic organization. How do they produce? What they produce? What is local? What is not local? How do they distribute food? How do they consume? What are the importance of culture, of festival on their economy? How the economic opportunities are changing? What is the transition in their food production? Whether from hunting gathering they have moved to agriculture, or from agriculture they have moved to migrated for to join the industrial economy. So all these things needs to be written in the people and other aspect of the society also, like continuity and change in the society, like gender role, political decision making, conflict resolution, all different aspects of people's life can be written in this chapter. So introduction can be 10 to 15 pages. Literature review again can be 10 to 15 pages. Area and people can be around 10 pages. Then comes fourth chapter is material and methods. Material and methods is in order to address the research question that you have asked, what are the methods you have adopted? What are the methods you have followed? So this is what you need to discuss. In in methods, another important aspect is tools and techniques that you have followed in designing the research, in carrying out this research. So, what would be important is to describe based on your research objectives. Suppose if you have three objectives, one is to find out the demographic and socioeconomic profile of the community. Second objective is to understand their nutritional status by applying 24-hour recall method and anthropometric measurement. Third is to assess their status in comparison to other communities. Then, what should you do? What you can do is in objective number one, you can specify the tools and techniques in the methodology section by saying that in understanding their socioeconomic profile and demographic structure, I would apply a schedule number of questions already codified through household census and applying a schedule. Suppose for 24-hour recall method, again a schedule, and for anthropometric measurement, these are the instruments that I will use: weighing machine, anthropometric rod, sliding caliper, spreading caliper, and steel tape. These are the instruments that I will be using. In order to use that, I will follow the methods derived by so and so anthropologists. These are the formula that I will be using. Suppose to calculate health status, nutritional status, I will use BMI, body mass index. So, research methodology section or materials and methods is a section which is very important. And you have to also tell what is your sample size, whether you are taking 300, 500 samples for anthropometric measurements, for 24-hour food recall, or to understand food culture, how food is changing. So all these things needs to be explained in your methodology section. Then comes data analysis. Once you have collected this data, data can be of two natures. One is quantitative data that comes in the tabular form. Qualitative data that comes in narratives. So narratives has to be explained that I've interacted with one old lady, Sita Devi, aged 48, having four children. She said this. Whatever she said in direct speech, you have to write it in italics with inverted comma. And if it comes in quantitative terms, in tables, you have to explain the table. And then comes your finding and conclusion. So before that, you can add another chapter called discussion. All these findings that you have in tabular form or narratives, you have to explain in the context of what you have reviewed in your review of literature. As I was giving the example, if the sex ratio is found to be 958 for Mundas of Ranchi and 995 for Mundas of Keonjhar, then in your discussion you can say something. Why it is high among Mundas? Because government has taken some measures, better awareness program with regard to the gender importance, gender role. So that is why sex ratio is high in Odisha compared to Jharkhand. So this can be written in discussion chapter. Then findings and concluding remarks. In your finding, major findings, suppose 10 or 20 or 25 major findings you have to write in paragraph wise. And then in conclusion, you can give in 2 or 3 pages conclusion. What do you feel as a researcher about the findings? Then you give the references. References in your book has been given. There are references for the citation that you have cited in introduction and review of literature. You have to give the complete references. Some sample have been given in your book. You can go through. There are different styles of referencing. You can follow one style. Please follow your book. If there are one author, or there can be two authors, there can be three authors, there can be multiple, five, six, seven authors of a book, of a journal, of a report. So the styles are different for all. Normally, for a journal article, you have to write the surname of the writer, then the first name in abbreviation. If there are two, write Das R, means suppose Ranjan Das and Sambit Mahapatra. You write Das R and Mahapatra S. 2021. Title of this is Nutritional Status of the Munda. Published in Man in Society, the journal. Underline Man in Society. Which volume? Volume number 5. Issue number 2. Page 18 to 24. So this is what is written for journals. For books, similarly, you have to write the name of the author, title of the book, and then publisher's name, year of publication, and from page to page. Report, you have to write the title of the report, the organization who has published it, year, and if it is an edited book, like if you have a chapter in a book, because some books can have 10, 15 chapters written by different authors. So you have to write the title of the chapter that you have taken and you have to write in, then the details of the book. But what is important in everything is author's name, especially surname and first name, then year, then name of the title of the chapter or the article or the book, and then publisher and page to page. And remember not to write at all, means suppose there are 7 authors in references, you have to write all everybody's name. Of course, in short, only the surname or family name and the first character of the first and middle name. Then you have to submit your project. So one copy of the project work has to be submitted to RSC registrar, your local division, and you have to write. I think it has been given in your booklet what to follow. Then comes criteria for evaluation. Your project will be evaluated by following points, like maximum mark is 30 marks. Your objective, hypothesis, and research methodology will carry 10 marks. Review of literature will carry 2 marks. Data analysis, interpretation, discussion, and conclusion 10 marks. And bibliography means your references 2 marks. And overall presentation style 6 marks. And when you write, please follow the guideline as written in your book. Maximum there will be 10,000 words. Then it should be original in your own style. The medium of language followed is English. It should not be a copy of, because there should be a declaration by you as a candidate that you have not copied from any source. Because nowadays plagiarism or copying is a major issue. Sometimes UGC will reject your certificate if you have copied from other sources. You give a declaration, and your mentor would also give a declaration that this work is original, it has not been copied from any source, or this work has not been done elsewhere earlier. Reference cited should be provided at the end of the dissertation. Length of the report must be 10,000. Project should have area map, area of work and study. In your methodology, you have to give the map of the village you have studied, or the area, means you can give India. From India, you show Odisha just in one page or two pages. Odisha, from Odisha, you can see which district, the district you can see block, and then the panchayat and the village. So that map you can hand hand drawn, or it can be taken from Google also. And the project report should also contain approved pro forma for project proposal from mentor that is given in your book. You can take and then get it approved by your mentor beforehand, then project proposal, then certificate of originality, that this is an original piece of work not copied from elsewhere. Then the project report received, otherwise are not acceptable. And the project should be taken at an individual level and not in a group. And for getting MA degree in anthropology, it should be individual research, not by a group. And other important matters you can go through that is given in your book, like ensure that the report contains the following: approved pro forma project proposal itself, certificate of originality, that is appendix B. Then do not again kindly mention on the top envelope that MAN project report, means man 1 hyphen 001. This will facilitate sorting out the project report. So all these details are given in your book, and appendix is also given where all the details are given for you to follow. Consent letter from the supervisor, then the pro forma for mentor's biodata, means person who would become your supervisor or mentor, his biodata should also be attached with your dissertation. Then cover page of the project work will contain this. They have given title of the project work under the supervision of some supervisor's name. Then project submitted to like IGNO, Indira Gandhi National Open University, in partial fulfillment of requirement. So this is something. Appendix V is the cover page, the first page of your dissertation, and it should be spiral bound or hard bound as it is mentioned in your book. Then student name, enrollment number, regional center, which region, student center, and your first page should also cover program code, man enrollment number, course code, region, study center, title of the project work. So as it is given, then certificate of originality to be signed by the student and also signed by the mentor. Then remuneration bill for guidance. The mentor who would guide you should also get some remuneration that needs to be given. So with this, I think this project report writing, how you should plan, what you should write, what are the minimum official document you should attach, we have discussed, and things are also given uh, in your book. So I would end here. I have kept time for you for discussion of specific individual based questions. If you have, please ask me mostly the academic part of the question. For your official thing, for administrative things, you can contact your own center. Please, if you have any question, I'm prepared and ready to answer the question. Yeah, if you have any question, please go ahead, ask me. I can see the names of Arpita Swai. Pragya Paramita Nanda, Smriti, Shamyaranjan Sahu, Sugyani Patru. If you have any question with regard to your project proposal writing, project report writing, you can ask me. Otherwise, thank you and goodbye from me.
Sir, last date of submission?
I think as for the booklet, it is 31st May, but this is something, as I said, this is a procedural thing because I'm a teacher from outside, not from IGNO. So you ask your coordinator from IGNO, they would be in a better position to give. As written in the book, the deadline is 31st May for January course, 30th of November for July start course. But for details, you have to ask your center.
Thank you, sir.
So, if you do not have specific questions, so maybe we can say goodbye to each other. I thank all of you for your kind attention. And if you want to ask question, I'm still available for another 5 minutes to take a question. And roughly, I'll be here for 30 minutes if you have questions. Otherwise, we say goodbye. Okay, friends, I suppose you do not have any question. I thank the coordinator. I thank the resource person from IGNO who is coordinating this and especially the online class. I thank all the dear participants who are still connected and who have left in the previous classes also and this class. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.